Hey everybody, school's back in session, Senorita Courtney is back in the building, and you're on the A-list. So the big talk right now is the stock markets are a little unstable. Everybody's talking about how we're going to be going into a recession in 2019. The word recession is making people go absolutely insane. And I'm here to tell you, chill, calm down, have a glass of wine, take a hit off of whatever you want to take a hit off of. It's gonna be fine. It's legal in Maryland, I can talk about it. Today, I'm gonna go back to my personal roots and give you guys a little lesson in what is a recession and what are the implications of a recession for a housing crisis. Are you ready? Please sit down. No, you can't go to the bathroom. No, you can't get up to sharpen your pencil. And no, I won't go out on a date with you. All right, cool. Now let's start. So before we start, econ majors, economists, I will not be dragged for this, okay? This is obviously a very base level explanation. It is for the people, by the people, and I just won't have it. Like, you cannot drag me for this, okay? I am just giving some very simple facts that I think will help people in the next year or two get through some of their fear and paralysis. Behind a recession, there are a lot of components that go into what defines a recession. A recession is an economic slowdown for 2 or more quarters, which means basically 6 months or more. There are 3 main triggers of a recession. Those are monetary policy, trade, and the stock market. Housing is not one of those components. Housing is way, way, way down the list on what actually creates a recession. So if you're on this side and a recession is already happening, what a recession really means is fear and paralysis. People hear that word, they get nervous, they don't go out and spend as much. There's a lot of fear-based messages that are delivered out there to make everybody feel like the sky is falling. I also feel like people who are my age and younger get really, really nervous because 2008 happened. So 2008 was like a converging of the worst conditions ever. Not only did we go into a gigantic recession, but we also had a housing crisis. Those two things just so happened to occur together, but that is normally not how things go. People who are around my age and younger, we didn't have the consciousness of remembering a different recession before then, like really, really feeling it because we weren't out there in the economy working. So therefore, this whole thing gives people mad anxiety. Mad anxiety. So if you hear the word recession and you start having a freak out, that's what the recession wants you to do. It doesn't have anything to do with housing. This is all the worst case scenario. 2008 obviously was an anomaly. 2008 was pretty much the sum of all fears. If we go into another recession, it doesn't have to be like 2008. There's only been one 2008 level recession since the Great Depression. So therefore, this next one that's coming up is not going to be like the last one. I promise. Let's get into the good news about the recession. Yeah, the good news about the recession, at least for the housing market. Now we're at the good news. There will be appreciation. For me? Oh, wait, no, I have 2 kids. There will never be appreciation for me, but there will be appreciation in home values. We've seen appreciation of home values at breakneck speed. Why? Because, well, we went way far down and we had a lot of ground to cover to get kind of back where we were before. Now that we are kind of at pre-recession levels, we are going to see a slower amount of appreciation, but we are not going to see depreciation. It gets so hard when we think about what we've personally been through economically the past 10 years. But if we zoom out and get a more historical perspective, you'll see that during the last 5 out of the 6 recessions, home values still went up. I think we all know what number 6 was. 2008. The Voldemort of recessions. He who shall not be named. We have to name it. We need to speak on him. We need to call on him, right? Harry Potter. Did Harry Potter ever be like Voldemort? I don't know.
Yeah, oh yeah, all the time.
We have to call on him. We have to call him by his name so that he loses his power to scare us. 2008, Voldemort. See, this is just like being in my classroom. We start talking about something and it turns into a Harry Potter reference. Let's keep our focus on some more good news. We're going to start at the bottom of my list here. Short sales versus foreclosures. In 2008, we basically got caught in the most epic pants around our ankles. Someone just came by while you were on the chin-up bar and just yanked your gym shorts down and you were like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? That is 2008 with home values, with the housing crisis. We were totally caught unaware. People couldn't decide whether they were going to short sell their house or foreclose their house. And that's what led to the plummet in values. It turns out, hindsight being 2020, that short selling homes were the best way of retaining the value in the neighborhoods. But at the time, people didn't know that and they were walking away and getting foreclosed on. So now, short sales are definitely seen as a more valid option and they definitely, as I said before, help retain the values of the properties in the communities. Speaking of foreclosures, right now we are having less foreclosures than the 15 years before the first housing crisis. So even though you might say, oh, I don't know, it seems like I see foreclosures all over the place, it doesn't really matter. You think that you see more foreclosures because 2008 has primed you. If you look at the actual statistics, there are less foreclosures now than there were in the 15 years before 2008. That's a great thing. On a social level, we don't have people out on their asses in the street, right? On an economic level, home values are being retained and we're just having less of this complete crisis moment. Now, if you've bought a house in the last 8 to 10 years, you will be able to definitely sympathize with this point, and that is that the lending standards, for now, are still very strict. I mean, Allison, every time they ask you for a document, they ask you for another document. They ask you to prove this, prove that, correct? All the freaking time. And you're like, why do they need this? Why? Because we don't want to go back to that place. We want to make sure that everything is tracked, that everything is legit. And that is why right now lending standards have not been really loosened all that much. Now there is definitely some legislation. They're trying to loosen up laws on Dodd-Frank. They're trying to potentially repeal Dodd-Frank. If that happens, then feel free to shit your pants. We're still doing very well with the strict lending standards. We're not in a 2006 situation by any means whatsoever. Trust me, I've been sitting down with a lot of sellers that are still underwater and are now these insane balloon payments from 2006. And when I look at their loan terms, I get an actual heart palpitations because I cannot believe what they signed up for and that they're still paying for, emotionally, financially, and spiritually, almost 13 years later. So these are all great indicators that just because we're going into a recession, we don't need to go back to that recession, the one that was in 2008. Recessions almost never have any sort of bearing on the housing market. Quite to the contrary, the housing market is usually what takes us out of recessions. Why? Because, as I said before, housing values continue to appreciate. The market continues to appreciate, and when other markets falter, the housing market drags us out of it. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any concerns? I'm trying to think. Yes, Allison.
I have no questions. I just wanted to raise my hand.
Oh my God, this is just like school. Mad triggered right now. Ooh, okay. I'm so happy that I got to be able to review these points with you, and I really feel like I am calling back on my teaching career. I don't know, man. I might quit this job and go back to teaching tomorrow. Psych! Oh God, why would I ever do that? And I hope that you have taken some of those feelings of fear and paralysis and 2008 flashbacks and turn them into something positive. We're gonna get through this. I'm gonna get through this. I mean, this is my job, and you see me sweating? Look at me in my face. I ain't got no worries. We're good. We're good to go. Not even I ain't got girl. I'm dry. I'm dry. Tune in next week when we do something a little different. We're going to be interviewing a dentist who is literally doing the most on social media, who is closer to where my actual office is located in the Hyattstown, Clarksburg area, and not so much in Frederick. It's only 15 minutes. You guys can make the drive. It'll be fine. Nos vemos la próxima semana en la lista A.